So the other part of the Braves being in Chicago is the fact that this is another one of those bittersweet reunions where, for the first time, and think about how crazy this is, it's August 4th, 2023. Braves are 100 plus games into the season, and we're finally going to see a reuniting of Dansby Swanson and the Atlanta Braves. Um, I had to laugh because Dansby had a quote talking about his wife Mallory, who's a obviously an MLS player, and that was part of the deal about you know being in Chicago because she's with the Chicago team for for women's MLS or what or not MLS, but for the women's professional league or what have you. But he joked about the idea that he said that Mallory said, "If I cry like a bee, I'm going to be sleeping on the couch for a week." And obviously, look, this is a fun reuniting. I mean, again, it feels a little bit different from the Freddie Freeman stuff, right? Because at the time, and again, hindsight's always 2020, but let's go back into the time frame of all of this in the immediate moment. People were frustrated because they thought that one, Freddie Freeman should have been here. Two is that Freddie's agent gave him bad advice about being here and this, that, and the other. And three is the fact that, you know, it seemed like that the it seemed like that there was a disconnect between the Braves and Freeman about this contract situation where, one side said this, one side said that. So again, there was sort of a bitter taste in the mouth about the Freddie Freeman deal as far as the public perception of it. Now, with Dansby Swanson, look, we know that this was all about the money, right? The Braves did not want to offer him that kind of a contract that he got. What did he get? Like $177 million from the Cubs. They were not going to offer that kind of deal, and they allowed him to walk. And it turns out that Orlando Arcia has had a really good year. And again, I know a lot of people like to compare Dansby Swanson and Orlando Arcia and the production that they're getting in this, that, and the other. But again, this is also about the long game. Okay. I mean, they didn't pay Dansby Swanson 1 year, $30 million to just be the shortstop for them. Again, he's still an elite defensive player. He is having a good year. I mean, again, he may not be having some of the year that he had last year with the Braves, but again, 16 homers, 51 RBI, 51 runs scored, hitting 265, 348 on base percentage, and believe it or not, he's got a 799 OPS, which was even better than his year last year, where he scored 99 runs and drove in 96, where he had a 776 OPS. In fact, this 779 OPS is his highest since 2020 in the pandemic year when he had an 809 OPS. And short of that, that's been his best season ever. So again, he's been an all-star. It's not like that he's been a bad player. He is what he is, right? He's an elite defensive player. He gives you some good pop out of the shortstop position. He can hit second. He can steal your bases. He can do a lot of different things. It's just that for $3 million, we have, hit the lottery on the bargain basement part of things to be able to have a guy like Orlando Arcia have the kind of production that he has had, right? I mean, again, and look, if anybody tells you that you saw this coming with Arcia, they're lying to you. I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's nobody that thought that Orlando Arcia was going to be. I mean, again, we had Vaughn Grissom penciled in, at that spot. I mean, that was the guy who was going to be our starting shortstop, and things didn't work themselves out. But Arcia's had a monster year, right? 296, 11 homers, 38 RBI, scored 45 runs. And by the way, missing 20 something games, 350 on base. He's got a 798 OPS, 1 point less than what Dansby has got this year. So again, everything worked itself out as far as the Dansby Swanson deal and what have you. And I don't know that there was this kind of bitterness that was with the Freddie Freeman situation where you felt like, gosh, Freddie should have been. Now, look, people emotionally thought that Dansby Swanson should have been here. People emotionally thought that, hey, they should offer Dansby a big time contract and this, then the other. But again, when you look at the kind of money that the Braves are putting out, they felt like that 170 plus $1 million for their starting shortstop wasn't a good value. And maybe in hindsight that was right. I don't know. I mean, we'll judge this contract and the signing or lack thereof over the next several years. If Orlando Arcia continues to play at this kind of level, then you feel like you got the bargain of the decade. But I mean, if he starts to fall flat on his face, then you're like, okay, well, we needed a better shortstop upgrade. But Arcia at least, if nothing else, whether he hits or doesn't hit, because the offense was a big plus and a big bonus for Arcia this year. But that he's going to be a solid defensive shortstop. So whether it's Grissom long term, whether it's Arcia, long term, that will all be determined, and we'll see. But it doesn't feel like that there's sort of the bitterness of the departure of Freddie between Swanson and the Braves. It doesn't feel like it's that, because again, the Braves were not going to pay him that kind of money that the Cubs offered him. And remember, this was in the middle of this big run on shortstops and things like that, right? Where shortstops were getting the Trey Turners and stuff. I mean, they were getting big time amounts of money, and Dansby was just the next guy in line, right? Whether he's worth it or not doesn't really matter. It's always about if you're next in line. So it'll be fun to see Dansby again. He'll be doing all the photo ops and all this kind of stuff. At least we won't have to see kids from Dansby, like what Freddie's son, Charlie, right? I mean, running around. I mean, we won't get bombarded with all those photos and everything like that. Yes, I'm a hater. I fully admit to all that. So, but again, it will be good to see Dansby Swanson. And look, the Cubs are, they are what they are. They're a game or two above 500. They're just kind of fledgling around. They spend a lot of money to upgrade their roster. Things really haven't worked themselves out. I mean, it just kind of is what it is. Again, it wasn't a matter of that he thought the Cubs were a better organization. Nobody was better than the Atlanta Braves. But if your employer is not willing to pay you that kind of money, and by the way, his wife did factor in to all of this, that she was going to end up in Chicago, and that was part of the deal. So again, there's bigger family things and stuff like that that went along with this. But again, I'm not mad at Dansby Swanson for taking $170-something million, right? If you have one team that's going to offer you $100 million and one team that's going to offer you 177, you take the 177 all day long, because the amount of money that's guaranteed is, 100% guaranteed. You take the money all day long. So not mad at Dansby for it. Not mad about this. It doesn't feel like that this is a kind of reunion where, gosh, you should have been here and been in a Braves uniform. I get it. It's business. At the end of the day, it's a business decision, and the Braves decided not to invest the kind of money in Dansby Swanson that they were going to have to fork out. And Arcia's worked out pretty well, I think. So again, at all parties involved, it worked itself out, and we move on. And now Dansby and the Braves can have their photo ops and reuniting. All right, as you make Hittin' Hard your first listen, be sure to go in and leave us a comment on whatever podcast platform that you listen to, and let us know that you're an everyday listener to the program. So let us know. We call them our everydayers, and we thank you so much for being a part of our community. But let us know on whatever platform that you listen on in the comments section that you're an everydayer 5 days a week to our show.